Okay, so I'm going to continue talking about purpose, and I'm going to talk about how the body is the key. Awareness in the body is the key, and feeling is the key to syncing yourself up quite effortlessly, right? Back up with your purpose. And so basically, the body is a reflection of the subconscious mind, and really the body mind, they run on autopilot until we occupy them again, until we come back not just into our body, even into our mind, right? If thinking is happening, if it feels like your thoughts are happening to you, you're not occupying your system. You are avoiding a feeling, and the feeling is revving and turning into dialogue. So I've given different talks about how to quiet the mind for real. Like, some people say, oh, you have no control over like what thoughts appear and everything, and I don't agree with that, really, because when you diffuse the energy that's creating the dialogue does tend to disappear. But so how does feeling and the body help you link up with your purpose? Well, first I want to kind of remind you that of something I mentioned a few days ago, which is that Yogi Bhajan says that the universe is held by sound, and sound does create form. We know that when we look at the work of Dr. Emoto, and we see how words and frequencies affect the shape of water. And of course, we're like, 90% water? Some scientists have said that it's like 70, but I heard Abraham Hicks said it's more like 90 or more. And so, first of all, instead of trying to think positive thoughts, right, what you want to do is diffuse the energy that's creating negative thoughts, diffuse the energies that are triggered right now, which means going into them so that they can open and repurpose themselves. So in order to do that, you have to first admit how you really feel about something. Then, of course, that vibration is going to stop creating form in your life. It's going to stop creating disease. It's going to stop creating problems in your life. But I want to talk about sound in a little bit of a different way. And I'm going to tell you how I meditate recently. I used to only meditate in silence, right? All day for me is a meditation, but I would bathe in silence and darkness for an hour in the morning. But recently, since November or something, I have been bathing in songs, music, and I've been thinking of a frequency like higher love, cosmic love, higher love. Unconditional love is like too cerebral, but just like higher love, like a feeling of epic love. And because, the body is form and sound creates form, well, if you allow music to take you deeply into a relaxed state, and then you evoke like more subtle sounds, like a frequency, like frequencies are like sounds. So as soon as you put your attention on a frequency, you become it, right? If you're relaxed enough, if your brainwaves are in a certain state. So if you can be in a relaxed state and you can feel the frequency of cosmic or higher love, and you just literally let it consume you, you let it dissolve you, you let it dissolve the separate self, right? You do that with image, with intention, with feeling. That's how I meditate now. Then what happens is that because the the separate self, right? A metaphor for the separate self is the actual body itself. So when you see it dissolving into love. It's almost like the version of the body that was created in fear, which includes the personality traits that were created out of fear, created out of reaction. When we're children, we get controlled, so we react by controlling others. It's our reaction to being controlled and confined, right? When you let that dissolve into love, and then you come back into this physical world, then the new form is love, is based on love. It's like one of those Dr. Emoto water crystals that has a new shape to it, right? Which means your subconscious mind has a new shape to it, which means you will attract differently in your life. But more importantly, like the law of attraction and all of that, it's about who do you want to be in this world? Do you want to be love in this world? Do you want to be intelligence in this world, which is unimpeded consciousness, which is love for humanity? Like, if that's what you want, but your subconscious mind, right, is, I hate to break it to you, but like, just like we're like 90% water, 90% of the subconscious mind is based on like negative programming, based on a series of impacts or constant information. Like, you might not have had one big trauma, but if you were constantly exposed to chaos and adrenaline, part of you probably fractured very deeply, fractured very severely, which could lead to something like disassociation, which could lead to like even disassociating from your mind. Forget about like staying in the head. I mean, me personally, I went further than that. I disassociated even from my mind. And so sound, right? So that means that's my subconscious mind and my body and my nervous system had some pretty severe trauma around or fear around certain people. And I noticed, like, I've had very deep awakenings. I've seen things very clearly. I know everything is myself. But when I see my body, how it reacts around certain people still, right, I notice, like my parents are very animated, let's say. My dad's very he's an explosive expresser. But I'm very mellow and I'm very quiet and I have a lot of energy, like I'm very ecstatic, but that was very uncomfortable for me to be around a lot. And I noticed, like, I would go around my parents, and if I would notice one of them walking towards me, my body would just start walking away. Or, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying ignore, the fact that you don't want to be around someone. But for me, it wasn't about that. It was like an automatic, it felt like a little kid running away because it was about to get in trouble. Okay, that's what I honestly felt around them. I noticed that my heart would beat, really quickly, or I would feel a sinking feeling. My dad tends to do this thing where he'll text me, he'll just say, call me, period. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's dramatic, or it's really not. That's just, he types with 2 fingers, like, he doesn't know how to use technology, so that's what he sends everyone. But like, when I get that message, the way that my part of me interprets it is like, don't, like a sinking feeling, like, uh-oh, a disaster is about to happen. Because when he would tell me to talk to him, he would call me, when I was little, he would call me before he would got home from work, and he'd say, call me, or I'm going to talk to you. And it would just feel so frightening to me. So here I am, 35 years old, and I find myself around him occasionally, still doing that. Or like my friend says, like, I act like a porcupine. It's like when they hug me, right, like my body is rigid. So what I noticed when I started doing, and I personally have a desire to be more soft and more affectionate with them. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that that's what you should do. That's just in my heart. Like, in my heart, it's almost like, my experience is that I know my life has taken me to be around my family of origin a lot so that I could get to the deepest parts of my mind, so that I could truly be free, right? Because I don't want to be free 90% of the time, and then when I'm around them, I have reaction, or I find myself running away like a 5-year-old. I want that energy to clear. That's me. So I noticed that, life takes you a certain direction in order to unearth almost different ages of either repressed energy or reactive selves that you constructed in order to protect you from feeling whatever your family of origin made you feel. So again, what I noticed by marinating in sound and using, instead of just going into the silence, like I used to meditate and I would just disappear, kind of like a reverse Big Bang, like into my heart and like the 0 point field, and I would kind of just disappear and I would feel disappeared basically. This is different. This is the feeling of like the void or the blackness is like, it's like a sea of love, and like you have the intention to let the sea of love absorb you, and that you feel that on the surface of your body as like almost the cells opening up and saying yes, yes. So the cells open up and they invite the energy in, and you feel yourself, instead of disappearing, right? Or sometimes you feel you disappear into here or into here. You actually merge with. So the form merges with the love of the blackness. And that way, like even though you feel that your body has disappeared where it was before, you feel those cells, you feel that light, you feel that energy being entrained to a new vibration, right? And because it's real, right? It's real. Like the best way to reprogram your subconscious mind, if a lot of it is running off of fear, the best way to replace that programming is to give yourself real experiences of love. And so how do you do that? Well, your heart chakra is a perceptual center that always feels love. But the body, like if you notice that the body starts to go into fear patterns around human beings, which is where those things come out, okay, that means that your subconscious, there's still parts of you that are stuck in certain ages. And so it's actually not necessary even that you contemplate the shadow material. It's more of the effort should be placed on putting attention on what you do want. So what I want is love. And so I marinate. That's what I do now. I marinate for 2 hours in the frequency of cosmic or eternal or higher love. And what I have noticed is that my reactions have disappeared, or I should say I have a greater desire to have a more human to human intimate connection with my parents, rather than just being able to be around them and at peace. I actually have a desire to get to know them. And that's really beautiful to me. So the shadow work, right? If the subconscious mind is what you're familiar with, and what you're familiar with is your childhood, that's why people are like, how did I create this? I got out of my family. I'm not like my mom and dad. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow that you literally are your mom and dad, unless you get back in your body, in many ways at least, unless you get back in your body and realize like the actual vibrations that are going on in your mind, right? Which is like, that's where being real with myself comes in. That's where saying to myself, yeah, actually I do feel purposeless and that I don't belong anywhere. Yeah, I actually do feel completely disoriented when I let go of routines. I actually do feel fear and disorientation when I don't identify as playing a role in someone's life, when I'm not the helper, when I don't have a sick person to take care of, when I don't have advice, when nobody's asking me for advice. Like in that point, when I start reaching out to people that I don't even genuinely want to talk to, it's like that's me avoiding a feeling of what the ego interprets as purposelessness, but it's actually just a sensation of aloneness, of not having a connection, not being defined by a connection in the external world. We avoid that like the plague because the original wound is separation from God, the perception of separation from God, and then the physical separation from the mother's womb. And so when we feel separate from something that we perceive would give us comfort, we avoid it like the plague. I mean, sometimes to the extent that we nearly kill ourselves, right, with drugs or whatever. And that's okay, right? People that have addictions are among the most sensitive people in the world, and they require, a new understanding of themselves in order so that they can release resistance, and so that they can allow themselves to understand themselves as a delicate instrument that doesn't come with an owner's manual. Okay? Like, this world is not particularly soft, and people with those kinds of issues, right, that was myself included. I had an eating disorder. We stay in those behaviors because they exist in a range of shame, guilt, and unworthiness, right? And so the guilt makes it hard to rise out of that, because if you have a problem like that, you feel guilty about it because it's like messing up other people's lives. But then that guilt gets you into shame. Oh, I'm a horrible person. And then maybe into unworthiness, like, I will never heal. Healing's not for me. This is what I am. So when you bathe in love, when you become familiar with love, all the ways that you escape, all of the shadow material jumps out at you, right? It's not hard to see. When you marinate in love, you don't want anymore to participate in your manipulations. You don't want to be seductive anymore. You don't want to manipulate anymore. You don't want to act helpless anymore. You don't want to act unempowered anymore. On a somatic level, like, wait a minute, like, anything less than being loved and empowered right now is me trying to get something from somewhere, and it's destructive and chaotic, and it's not okay, right? If you want to live an awakened life, if you familiarize yourself with love, you will naturally lose interest in identities, in roles, in manipulations, in seductions, in lying, in games, in mimicking. Because would love mimic something? No. Love would express itself as it is. Another golden quote by Krishnamurti is, "A lily or a rose never pretends. Its beauty is that it is what it is." And truly, like, we are like the lilies and the roses. Like, we are what we are. And when that can express itself without imitation, without censorship, without manipulation, it is like, haven't you recognized, like, when somebody's being genuine, like, you don't think, oh, well, they're, I know a lot of people that other people might not call particularly intelligent. I disagree with that. But, like, when I see them being themselves, whenever I see somebody in their element, whatever that is, I feel so much joy. And I feel love for people that aren't in their element. But I just recognize, like, this truth that when we express ourselves genuinely, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the energy of being genuine. It's the energy of being yourself. Like, that's why it's like, I've grown up in Miami with a lot of gay friends. And even when I was a teenager, I was always, like, attracted to gay guys, because I was like, damn, I respect you, because you are just, I am who I am. Like, that's the energy that is attractive, really, right? It's like this energy of, like, I am who I am. And that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful that people, even now more and more so, like, children are born that are, like, harder and harder to boss around, harder and harder to fool or to condition. Because there are teachers, they're like, no, you are consciousness. You are an emanation from God. You are a stream of consciousness from the mind of God. Like, why are you pretending to be someone you're not? who said that there was rules to your life? Who said you had to do anything in particular? Who said you were obliged to do or be or have anything? It's like that genuine expression, no matter what it looks like, is beautiful. It is beautiful. I remember one of the first signs that I knew that my awakening had reached a deep level of my mind. I was at a gym and I was not in the mood to work out. I was sitting on a chair in the bathroom and I noticed like all these women walking in. All these women, every age, every shape, every body type, every color. And I remember genuinely like being in this really kind of ecstatic love state. And I was like, it felt like I was looking at flowers. I was like, whoa, she is so beautiful. She is so beautiful. They're all so beautiful. They're all so beautiful. They're all so beautiful. Like that was like, that to me was proof that like all the conditioning about what we are taught is beautiful. And trust me, I'm from Miami, and Miami might be one of the most shallow places in the world, maybe. And so that's how I knew, like, that's what I grew up in. That's part of my conditioning. And when I was able to see that, like, it gave me this new, I don't know, this like new level of freedom. Like, oh my God, the whole time it has been that I was just looking through conditioned eyes. I was conditioned to think that this size or this blah, blah, blah is what is beautiful. And that doesn't even make sense to me anymore. And what I noticed that in my body, my personal body, when I honor like what my body really wants, like how it wants to eat, how it wants to move, like at least in my experience, the shape of my body is pleasing to me because I feel like I'm in alignment, or I'm honoring like rhythms of energy. And I think the body takes the shape of what you use it for. And like, I use my body to dance and I use my body to do Pilates, and it's taken the shape of being able to do those things. And so it's like, what I find is that when you honor yourself, like you're pretty damn happy, because the whole time we just wanted to be ourselves. We wanted to be ourselves in our individuality. We wanted to be ourselves as love. We want to look through the eyes of love. That's what we want. And so it's really easy to think about that, to contemplate that, and contemplation eventually will just start to sink in through the levels of your being. But I'm telling you that nothing is more powerful if you are sensitive to sound, especially, than using a sound to take you into a deeper feeling experience of somatically merging yourself with higher love, cosmic love. It's almost like you can feel it. It's like that image of Shakti, like you can feel it like almost lovingly destroying the parts of you, like the fearful parts of you. And it's so moving. So what happens? Sound creates form. Sound is not just the music that you're listening to. Sound is the intention. My intention to be consumed by love, and my ability to relax and marinate in that love is going to change the form in my life. It's going to change the form of my subconscious mind. Therefore, it's going to change the form of everything in my life. Depending on what's in your heart. But for me, I was afraid, right? This was originally about purpose. And I mentioned that based on who I am and what I do, it's like there was no way for me to fit myself into a conventional setting anywhere. And that perpetuated a disassociation, because actually what I was avoiding was feeling like I have no reason to be here. And I would notice myself like wanting to help people with their diet, wanting to be, give you Ayurvedic advice, like wanting to be your teacher, and I noticed that behavior came from this really intense kind of despair and fear that like, wow, there is no purpose in my life. And when I learned to be with myself in those moments and not go into neurotic activity to try to cover it up, It was really simple. I allowed that feeling in the solar plexus to diffuse, to rise, and to repurpose itself into creative energy, and automatically, like, things in my life have just fallen into place. Things have become visible that were invisible to me before. And a lot of people are afraid to make moves because of money. I kind of told the story in an earlier video that when I decided to leave law, I had this, I don't like the word ex-husband, my former partner, he had a job where we were traveling for many years, and the whole time I got to like immerse myself in mystical energy. I got to basically not do anything that I didn't want to do, and I will never do anything I don't want to do ever again. I started putting my foot down. I started honoring my emotions. I started honoring what was real for me. I started honoring my boundaries within that situation. And I discovered such an immense amount of energy, power, and physical vitality by doing that. So I know very well what it means to get your power back, literally, physically. And then when I left that relationship, it was all of my fears about survival came up, which is something that I never actually had to look at. I've never had a fear about money. I have never been in a situation where I was unable to, or I've always been very free to do whatever I want to do. And there was a period where like I had no physical money. I own 4.5% of a liquid natural gas company, but I cannot cash the asset for, well, actually I get to choose when I do that, but I'm choosing not to do that for a little while because that's what's smart. So it's like, wow, my lifestyle changed. And it brought up, it's almost like it brought me back to being a teenager when I felt my most awkward and I felt my most like really like I didn't belong anywhere in the world. And it was a very deep healing. I got to confront my inability to receive help, right? And when I allowed myself to completely be at one with who and what I am, at least for right now, my external world reflected that. So people that challenged me stopped challenging me. All sorts of people started helping me in pretty like epic ways, and I had a lot of resistance to receiving that help. I went to an event, that Joe Dispenza event I mentioned, and I was selected as a healee because I want to regrow my thyroid and my 90 lymph nodes that I had removed. And I remember getting there. I don't identify as a sick person. So when I got there, I was like, I saw all these people with like cancer and, they were going through chemo and rough stuff. And I was like, I need to give this healing to someone else. And I remember going to a meeting for the healees, and they were like, okay, if you've even thought about giving away your healing, like, you have to realize that your unworthiness is coming up. You have a deep, you don't feel worthy of this healing. The field chose you to have this healing. Out of 1,500 people, you were one of the 75 people. Like, accept that. Feel able to receive that. So the marinating in the love has helped me receive somatically, really, like in the real experience, like just like our childhood was real experience after experience of chaos and impact, you want to replace that with the real experience of love, and that is the most effective way to do it. And so I learned how to receive. I'm having beautiful, intimate relationships with the people that used to scare the shit out of me. And I'm happy, and I'm free, and I can be around where it all started, which is my family of origin, and I feel happy, and I feel genuine, and and it's so ironic because they actually love it. They actually love it because, like I said, we love genuine. Maybe not even consciously, we love genuine expressions of God, which is ourself. So that's how your body can help you sync up with your purpose. Have a good day.